Did WWE accidentally ruin one of the greatest star-making moments they had in years? Because just a few weeks ago, it genuinely felt like Oba Femi was becoming the next massive superstar in WWE. Everything was lining up perfectly. The presentation, the dominance, the aura, the crowd reactions, and most importantly, the story. WWE had somehow managed to create a moment that felt huge, meaningful, and symbolic all at once. A young 27-year-old powerhouse stepping into the biggest stage possible and defeating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 42 in dominant fashion. And not just defeating him, retiring him. Brock Lesnar leaving his boots and gloves in the ring felt like the perfect passing of the torch moment. It felt complete. It felt emotional. It felt important. And honestly, it felt like WWE had finally found one of their next megastars. But now, just a few weeks later, it feels like WWE is already undoing all of that. And that's exactly why WWE might have a huge Oba Femi problem right now. Because let's go back to how this feud was originally built. From the very beginning, something about the story felt different. Usually in a Brock Lesnar feud, we already know the formula. Brock dominates. Brock destroys people. Brock throws them around like rag dolls. Even when Brock eventually loses a feud, he still feels like the monster throughout the storyline. That's how Brock Lesnar has always been presented. He's the beast incarnate. He's supposed to feel unbeatable. But with Oba Femi, WWE completely flipped that formula upside down. Week after week on the road to WrestleMania 42, Oba Femi was the one destroying Brock Lesnar. Oba was overpowering him, standing tall over him, embarrassing him physically. And honestly, it shocked fans because we had never really seen Brock booked like that before. Usually Brock makes young stars look vulnerable. This time Brock was the vulnerable one, and instead of fans rejecting it, people actually loved it because Oba Femi looked believable enough to pull it off. And that's the key part here. Oba didn't just look strong, he looked legitimate. His size, his explosiveness, his intensity, the way he carries himself, everything about him screams future world champion. So fans bought into it immediately. They looked at Oba Femi and thought, okay, this guy might actually be the next big thing. Then WrestleMania happened, and WWE somehow made the moment even bigger because Oba Femi didn't just beat Brock Lesnar, he dominated Brock Lesnar. That's the craziest part. This wasn't a lucky win. This wasn't interference. This wasn't Brock making a mistake. Oba physically overwhelmed Brock Lesnar on the biggest stage in wrestling and pinned him clean in dominant fashion. And when Brock left his boots and gear in the ring afterward, it completed the story perfectly. It was symbolic. The old monster falls, the new monster rises. That's wrestling storytelling at its best. And honestly, almost everyone agreed WWE got it right. Fans praised the match, fans praised the booking, fans praised Oba Femi's presentation. It genuinely felt like the company had created a new main event level attraction overnight. And that's exactly why what happened afterward feels so confusing. Because after all that momentum, after defeating Brock Lesnar, after retiring Brock Lesnar, after having arguably the biggest moment of his career, what did Oba Femi do next? Open challenges, random open challenges against lower card wrestlers. And that's where the momentum immediately started cooling down. Now, to be fair, open challenges are not automatically a bad idea. In fact, they can be great for establishing dominance. But timing matters in wrestling. Context matters. And the timing here made absolutely no sense because Oba Femi had just defeated Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. After a moment that massive fans expected escalation. Fans expected him entering the world title picture. Fans expected confrontations with Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes. Fans expected WWE to capitalize immediately on the momentum. Instead, Oba started destroying wrestlers like Otis, Angelo Dawkins, Humberto, and other mid-card names every week on Raw. And suddenly, the aura started changing because beating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania should elevate you beyond random weekly squash matches. That's the issue. WWE treated Oba like a megastar at WrestleMania, and then immediately booked him like a Monster of the Week character afterward, and fans noticed it instantly. At first, people tried to stay patient. They assumed WWE was slowly building towards something bigger, but week after week, nothing really changed. No major storyline, no major rivalry, no real progression. It genuinely started feeling like WWE had no actual follow-up plan after WrestleMania, and then things somehow became even more confusing because Brock Lesnar returned, not months later, not a year later, just weeks later. And the moment Brock returned on Raw and destroyed Oba Femi with multiple F5s, the entire WrestleMania moment instantly started losing value. That's the biggest problem here, because if Brock Lesnar's retirement only lasted a few weeks, then what exactly was the point of that emotional WrestleMania ending? Why leave the boots in the ring? Why make it feel like a career-ending moment? Why give Oba Femi that symbolic victory if Brock was just coming back immediately anyway? And this is why so many fans are frustrated right now, not because because Brock Lesnar returned. Brock coming back itself is not the issue. The issue is the timing and the storytelling around it, because the story already had a perfect ending. Oba Femi conquered Brock Lesnar. Brock passed the torch. The new generation officially arrived. That was the conclusion, but now WWE is stretching the story further for reasons that honestly don't benefit anybody involved. And according to many fans, the reason feels obvious. WWE wants Brock Lesnar available for a bigger retirement storyline later, potentially involving Gunther, who has been slowly building a reputation as the legend killer or career destroyer after retiring multiple legends already. And if that's the direction WWE wants to go, then okay, maybe it makes sense from a larger company perspective. But from Oba Femi's perspective, it hurts him badly, because now, instead of moving forward into bigger stories, Oba is being pulled backward into another Brock Lesnar feud. And the worst part is, most fans already expect Oba to lose at Clash in Italy. That's what makes this situation so dangerous, because if Brock Lesnar defeats Oba Femi just 1 month after getting dominated and retired at WrestleMania, then the entire WrestleMania payoff becomes weaker retroactively. Suddenly, Oba's huge career-defining victory doesn't feel permanent anymore. It starts feeling temporary, and wrestling fans hate that feeling, because the original story already achieved everything it needed to achieve. Oba became a star, Brock got a meaningful retirement moment, the audience accepted the passing of the torch, the emotional payoff was complete. So now what exactly are we adding by continuing this feud? That's the question fans keep asking, because even if Oba wins a third match later, it still won't feel as special as WrestleMania. Nothing can replicate that moment. You only retire Brock Lesnar once. That's what made it powerful, and by bringing Brock back immediately, WWE risks making that entire moment feel less historic. And honestly, this feels like a bigger issue WWE has sometimes with long-term booking. They create a perfect conclusion and then refuse to let the story actually end. Instead of moving Oba Femi into fresh rivalries, fresh character development, and fresh opportunities, they're dragging him back into the same story repeatedly. And that can hurt momentum very quickly, because momentum in wrestling is fragile. A superstar can feel unstoppable 1 month and feel cold the next if WWE doesn't capitalize properly. And Oba Femi had real momentum, not manufactured hype, real hype. Fans genuinely started seeing him as one of WWE's future centerpieces, a future WrestleMania main eventer, and instead of building upward from that moment, WWE slowed everything down dramatically. That's the biggest frustration here, because WWE clearly wants younger stars right now. You can see it everywhere. Most of WWE's current top names are older stars. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. Many of the company's biggest attractions are already in their late 30s or 40s, so WWE desperately needs younger main event level talent for the future, and Oba Femi looked like one of the perfect candidates for that role. He checks almost every box, which is why fans expected WWE to push him directly into bigger programs after WrestleMania. Instead, it feels like they paused his momentum completely, and now there's a real risk involved, because if Oba loses at Clash in Italy, fans may start seeing him differently, not as the unstoppable future megastar, but as the guy who beat Brock once before Brock got his win back. And psychologically, that changes everything, because wrestling fans remember moments emotionally, and once momentum cools off, it's very difficult to fully recreate it again. That's why WWE has to be extremely careful here, because right now it genuinely feels like they're sacrificing Oba Femi's momentum just to stretch Brock Lesnar's retirement story a few months longer. And honestly, that feels unnecessary, because sometimes the best thing WWE can do is simply let a great story end naturally. WrestleMania 42 already gave us that ending. It already gave us the perfect passing of the torch moment. And now, by continuing the story, WWE risks damaging both sides. Oba Femi loses momentum, Brock Lesnar's retirement moment loses emotional value, and the audience starts questioning the booking instead of enjoying the story. So now, the big question becomes this: is WWE making a massive mistake with Oba Femi? Should Brock Lesnar have stayed retired after WrestleMania? And if Oba loses at Clash in Italy, will WWE completely destroy the momentum of one of their biggest future stars? Let me know in the comments below.